The British and Irish Lions Tour of 2025 begins on Friday night as the Lions take on Argentina. I'm very excited. Are you?
No, of course I am. Like, this is on par with when the first test rolls round, I think.
Yeah.
Seeing the first team makes it feel so real that you're seeing a team sheet that has a back row where you've got Tom Curry and Jack Morgan in the same thing. You're seeing a team sheet where you've got Sione Tuipulotu and Bundy Arki as a centre combo.
That back three, right, of Duan van der Merwe, Tommy Freeman and Marcus Smith.
That's so unlikely.
Yeah.
Like, those three shouldn't cross paths, and yet they've all done it because they're all so good.
Yeah.
And that is the thing that unites them, is they're from, Britain and Ireland between them, and they're all good enough to be there.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing that matters. So, yeah, just simplifying it like that just makes it feel so exciting.
The moment I got properly excited was seeing the clip out there that they've put out of Marcus Smith and Johnny Sexton working on the goal kicking. And Sexton giving him this very no, this is how it worked for me advice that nonetheless Marcus was very receptive to. But that moment of magic and being but they shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
That shouldn't be the case.
Yeah.
But here we are.
Yeah.
It's Lions season. It's ready. It's happening.
It's brilliant. So that whole documentary thing, that sort of 18-minute documentary style clip on YouTube that they put up. Last night I watched that with the biggest Lions fan, I would say, in the world, being
certainly up
our
there.
mum.
Yeah.
And immediately afterwards, she asked, can we watch it again? And so we did. So that's the most exciting. This is the most important thing about the Lions is our mum being happy and enjoying
she loves the Lions more than anything.
She's obviously very happy about Bundy Arki starting in the centres.
It is her birthday this game's taking place, and we are flying to Dublin with her to attend it, which is very exciting.
That's what it's all about, rather than the fact that it's our job and that we love rugby or whatever. It's about making sure our mum enjoys the Lions tour,
which is that's the main priority for most of the players as well.
Yes, indeed.
I know they're all thinking about
if they could play well and win, please, just for her, that would be brilliant.
Yeah.
Just thanks, lads.
I'm fully expecting Finn Smith will come out on Friday night and say we did it for Ms. Squidge.
Mama Squidge, indeed.
Yeah. So, the rugby is taking place.
Yes.
It will be happening between the Lions and Argentina. This will be... Do you know how many meetings there's been between the Lions and Argentina? How many times have they played before?
One? Or is it more than one?
More than one.
Wow, I nailed it.
This will be the 8th meeting between the Lions and Argentina.
Wow, that's surprising.
There have been, and people bring this up all the time of should they be touring Argentina soon? And there's talk they may look to arrange tours to Argentina and France potentially in the future, because the current deal of Sanzar runs after this tour. There have been 3 tours to Argentina in the past. No one brings those up. 1910, 1924, and I want to say 1938. They played 6 tests over those 3 tours. They played just 1 on the first one. They played 4 on the second, then just 1 on the third. But, they worked out as having a series of test series.
How did they get on?
The Lions won all of them.
Okay, well done, Bill Beaumont. You did a really good job.
Argentina, between them, scored 6 points in 6 games against the Lions. They were nilled in 4 of the games.
Right, okay. Granted, I think they've improved a little bit since then.
Well, so then, 2005, right before the 2007 World Cup, where Argentina kind of made that step up to being a Tier 1 nation, they played in Cardiff and drew 25 all. The captain on that day for Argentina was Felipe Contepomi, who is now the head coach of Argentina.
Yeah.
The captain for the Lions was Michael Owen, who is not around anymore involved in this team, but there's some nice symmetry on one side, if not the other.
Indeed. So Argentina have also named their team, right? And there's no Federico Todeschini in it, so there's not going to be a 50-year-old man lumping kicks over from the post from 60-odd metres all game long 1,000 times. However, the team that they have named is extremely strong.
It's very good.
The question is, are we over egging the Lions here? Or do we have to remember, actually, there's a game here, there's an opposition, and the Pumas will want that tour to happen. They will want to have the Lions come to their backyard and make that statement. Yeah. And bear in mind, who is their captain other than maybe the king of bitterness in rugby, Julian Montoya.
Yeah.
So Julian Montoya will be so fuming with the fact that this is all about the Lions. That the fact that this is an event set up, and it feels like, it's what I've always said about the Red Roses, and going to watch them play, is that it feels like we're going, let's go and watch the Lions play, because it'll be so entertaining, right? They'll be going, nah, we are there to screw them up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you saw the post-match interview Julian Montoya did after the Premiership final, where Sarah Elgin was very good-natured to him and saying, like, I know it's disappointing, but how are you feeling? And he was just like, bad. Next question. Julio Montoya does not give an inch in anything that he does on the pitch or off it. So it's super, super exciting having this Argentine team come to town.
Santiago Carreras said yesterday that this is a once-in-a-lifetime game, and all of them know that.
Yeah.
Right? The last time the Lions played Argentina was 20 years ago. Before that, it was 70 years previous. I think 69 years previous, which is a very nice amount of time. But like, this game does not roll around for many Argentines, and it doesn't roll around very often. And even if they play it again, right, you're probably looking at it being at least 12 years off.
Yeah.
Like, there will probably be at most one player, maybe two players in this Argentine team that will have another chance at this at best.
Teams will be queuing up to play the opening game against the Lions, as Japan did, as the Barbarians did, and so on.
France are already in talks for the next tour. Like, this is a huge deal, right? And these Argentina players are uniquely motivated. Contepomi said we've been in camp a very short period of time. They've had players coming back in week and week. You know, as you mentioned, Montoya played in the Premiership final 6 days before this game takes place. They've been slowly building this team back out and building their squad up based on who is released by their clubs at various points in the season. They currently have a team that is missing a handful of the big names. You know, no Guido Petti, who's been playing brilliantly well for Bordeaux and will be again this weekend. Mateo Carreras is at Bayonne. You know, currently about, like, you've
Thomas
got
Garjo missing.
Thomas Garjo's missing, yeah.
It's difficult to know why, but he's like one of the top end, if not world-class players at their team.
Absolutely.
He's missing.
The Toulouse contingent, right? So you've got Malia and Chocobares, who are both exceptional players, both missing. Marcos Kramer missing. Like, they are missing some really key names, and yet this team they've named is superb. It's a really, really strong lineup, largely the strongest they can put together, minus those handful of names, but they've all come in positions where they have some depth.
Yeah. And you look up front, that front five that is always kind of the fulcrum of Argentine teams. You're looking at Vivas at loose head, and you're looking at Joao Slavi at tight head. Slavi last year was a real dark horse at scrum time, and is somebody who I could 100% see getting under Ellis Genge's skin. Yeah. That is a real area that they'll be looking to target. And in the second row as well, you're looking at Pedro Rubiolo and Franco Molina, who are both exceptional at line-out time and so disruptive on the charge down, on the counter-ruck, in the carry. Everything they do is annoying. Yeah. And obviously they're opposite Tyburn, Morrow, Toje, but I can just see that being a proper tussle for 80 minutes.
Yeah. And there's one other name I want to pull out from Argentina, right, which is very interesting. Well, there's a few, right? That back three, incredibly dangerous. Look at how well they've been going, right? Isgro, since he signed for Quins, has been phenomenal, was obviously brilliant in the Seventh Circuit before that.
Yeah.
You've got Carreras, who is just getting better and better all the time. You know?
He's world-class,
He's
Carreras.
Yeah.
He's unbelievable.
Like,
Sinbad would agree.
He's absolutely delighted, though. Don't talk about next season.
No.
Obviously off to Bath.
But he's an unbelievably balanced player, and no matter what kind of game you're in, he will benefit you.
And weirdly, his spell of playing as a fly half has just made him a better fullback. And I think he's now settled into that 15
It's balanced
jersey.
him very well.
But he's now a much more well-rounded player and a much better player for having that period of playing in so many different positions.
Yeah.
His high ball work's coming a lot as well in the last few years.
Yeah.
So he is just a player playing the best rugby of his career at the minute, I think.
100% he is. And lighting up in the Prem. And the other guy I want to look at, like Ignacio Mendy on the other wing, is... Right, one of my favourite genres of rugby player is Argentine winger.
Absolutely.
And he is that in spades. There's certain exceptions to what an Argentine winger looks like typically, right? You look like the likes of like Gonzalo Camacho, Emiliano Buffelli in recent years, are slightly different, very, very high standard kind of defensive wingers
who are extremely
well-rounded.
But those are the two types of wingers they typically produce, right? Are the really like guys that understand the game inside out and aren't that quick, but like have everything else to make up for it.
Yeah.
Like incredibly tenacious players. And then the most balanced man you've ever seen.
Yeah, you look at the likes of, Santiago Cordero is in the squad, he's on the bench for this game, which is crazy in itself. The likes of Lucas Amolosino, one of the greats of just attacking rugby, and he falls into that sort of a category. Batista Delgui, another one that they've produced so many of these guys, but he's so balanced, and he's one of those that when he comes off his wing, he picks the right lines to try and pick off defenders who don't see him coming, and he can be late to hit lines out the back of pods, but also if you leave him on his wing and you give him opportunity, he will skin people.
Yeah.
He's opposite Duhan van der Merwe this weekend. That is the perfect test for Duhan ahead of facing Andrew Kellaway in the summer as well.
You remember the last time they played? Mendy scored an absolute worldie against Edinburgh.
There we have it.
So, it's up in the air. There is one other name that stands out in the Argentine team, though, right? You have generally this incredibly strong superstar team. And then at 12, you have Justo Piccardo, who is a guy I looked at. I didn't know who he was.
I didn't know who he was.
I went blank and I spent my morning looking him up. And what a morning that was, because this kid is good.
He looks like a big, gnarly unit up there.
So he is playing for Los Pampas in Super Rugby Americas. He has had an outstanding season for them. He was nicknamed by ESPN Southern America, Hombre Imparable, which means unstoppable man.
I see.
So he is a big unit at 12. He also plays a lot of rugby on the wing, which I think is interesting. He's got a real turn of pace. There's one try he scored early this season, which was phenomenal on kick return, where he just showed his ability to both break the tackle and his little turn of pace as well. He is someone who I think has all the attributes. Looking at him, I went and watched him back playing against Cheltenham from a few weeks ago, the Chilean team, and he is just excellent. The lines he picks, the way he gets onto the ball, the way he brings himself into a game. And obviously, we're looking at someone playing at a lower standard of rugby than test level against the Lions. But I was looking at him there and he looks visible, like I could see what Contepomi was saying, right? I was looking at him and going like, oh, you should be playing at a higher standard. And I'd be very surprised if he isn't playing somewhere in, France or England or another nation by the end of the year.
That's the thing about Piccardo. Like, you look at him and you go, they're down to third string, right? You've got the world famous Choco is out, and you've got Geronimo de la Fuente is injured, who's an outstanding player, and so they're down to Piccardo in third
Malaya
choice.
as well, can't slot into the centre. You've got a few of those utility options as well.
Absolutely. And the talking point of this, I had a text from a friend of mine earlier saying, blimey, who's playing opposite Bundyaki and Sione Tuipulotu this weekend? Because they have families. That's not fair. And then I was like, well, this guy looked motivated. He's the sort of player who will go, well, it's my opportunity to play international rugby against one of the greatest teams historically in history. I am going to hit Bundyaki. And I would not be surprised if 5 minutes in, he puts a shot on him, because that is just what he wants to do on a rugby pitch. And Lucio Cinti as well. Great on line speed, great on the chop.
This will be his second cap, made his debut off the bench against Ireland in the Aviva, so he won't be overawed by the occasion. He's been there before. He's ready for this. But I really like the look of him. And you remember the last time Argentina threw a youngster into the 12 jersey, aged to almost exactly the same age, right, for a massive, massive one-off test. Santiago Chocobar is making his debut against the All Blacks at 12 and was absolutely brilliant. Argentina beat them for the first time ever, right? Like, it's a formula they know well. Contepomi had just come into the coaching box then as well. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited by this. I think there's also something really cool about giving a young kid a run in that jersey.
Yeah.
There's a few other names on the Argentine bench that may not stand out to people as well, that they may not have known. One thing that is interesting, right? Batista Bernasconi, the hooker for Benetton, who has had a great season for them, has been really, really good for them. Obviously alongside Augustin Creevy, and has knocked him out the shirt, has been starting over him very regularly. And very much feels like he had a chance to learn off, one of the greats of that jersey. He's on the bench there. However, they also have Boris Wenger on the bench, right? Who is also a hooker. Played for Argentina against Uruguay and Chile last year, and played, under 20s the year before for Argentina. This will be his first formal cap. He played uncapped games before. He's also a hooker. He hasn't played, as far as I can see, at Loosehead, which is covering on the bench. So that's going to be an interesting one as we get to the second
opposite
half.
Ty Furlong to come on
so
for the Lions.
There may be a chance for this kid who looks very good playing, at hooker, again, against like lower level opposition, uncapped games. But big ask to win your first cap out of position against Tyg Furlong, as you mentioned, potentially, if he's on by that point. That's a huge, huge ask. Then, you've also got, I want to mention Joaquin Moro as well, who, again, many people may not have come across. Won one cap against Uruguay last year, scored 2 tries in the process, and kid is quick. Kid is useful. Rangy, has a good step on him, created 2 more tries as well, did this breakout from his own 22, another guy to keep your eye on. Both, if you are a Lion and you are, potentially looking at breaking down that edge, but also if you are perhaps a European club and looking at someone to bring in for next season, just 22 years of age, so youngster again has been playing in Super Rugby Americas and been exceptional there. So I like that they're rewarding form from Super Rugby Americas. I like that they've seen this, Conte seen this as an opportunity, not just for the established players, but to reward some of the players playing at the more local level.
Yeah, and with all those names you've just mentioned, right, brutality is what we can expect.
Yeah.
They're going to be so physical off the line. And flipping it back to the Lions here, once again, everybody's talking about the centre combo of Archie and Tuipulotu, that those two run hard, they are gritty and difficult to drop to the floor. But I think actually what's more important here is the subtlety of Tuipulotu in the 13 jersey, that he can take offloads and he can spread the ball wide. That actually, it's easy to kind of forget it because he's such a big unit, but the best part of Sione's game is his distribution, is that he's so good at getting the ball wide and getting people into lots of space and getting time on the ball for the likes of Finn Russell when he plays for Scotland. Now, Finn Smith at 10 for the Lions is very similar to Russell in that Northampton's whole attacking game plan, as was talked about on this channel many, many times before, is about getting Finn Smith time on the ball to weigh things up and make decisions and have people run off him so he can decide what to do. Now, there's a lot of familiarity in there. He's got Alex Mitchell, his old mate, playing 9 for him. That's a great selection.
I think that's really smart. I think the fact that everyone else in the team is units that have never played together. You had Byrne and Natosha played in the previous Lions tour. Otherwise, no unit has ever played together, right? Except for the halfbacks.
Yeah.
Really smart. You've got the option to pick
inside out
that
at club
play
and
together.
country.
Yeah. They're now first choice for the country. They've been first choice at their club for about 3 years, since Finn Smith moved over from Worcester. So that is like nailed in. They know each other
together
so well. Yeah, they're mates. You've seen them, off the pitch, hanging out all the time together. As Fraser Dingwall said once, like, all our squad are incredibly tight because there's nothing to do in Northampton. So we just have to hang out together all the time. Like, they're incredibly good mates. You've got Tommy Freeman on the wing as well. They can link up with as well.
That's just as important.
Finn Smith and Tommy Freeman work together so well. You look at the tries they create against Leinster, like, they are a brilliant combo together. Like, it's a really smart thing to put that unit together.
Yeah, 100%. And you look at that backline once again and talk about that subtlety. Tommy Freeman's so good with that. Coming off his wing and deciding what to do. And it takes a little bit pressure off Duhan van der Merwe as well, that he can be there as more of a finisher. If Freeman's there to exploit gaps and uses a bit more of a strike runner, those two I'd imagine will be really good as getting the best out of both kind of things that you might want out of wingers. And also, as well, Marcus Smith at 15. That he is a proper ball player and that he will come in stepping as a 10 and as a boot option off Finn Smith because, as I say, he likes having options. And again, if he has lots of time on the ball, lots of depth, and he can sling it wide, Marcus Smith, instead of time, he needs space, or he craves space and an opportunity to step a man. And I just think that whole backline really just rounds itself out. It's not necessarily the perfect backline that you would have guessed that they were going to play, but instead it's just one full of players that you can just see complementing each other by the 80th minute.
The other thing is, there is a player from all four nations starting for this first game, which I think is great. You've got both Welsh players involved as well, Thomas on the bench and Jack Morgan starting. But beyond that, you've also got, if you were to go through and pick out the players who, if you're a neutral, if you support Ireland or England, or one of them individually, right? The players you'd be most excited about having as your guy, most of those are playing. Marcus Smith is playing. I'm excited about him being my guy.
100%.
Tommy Freeman, I'm excited about being my guy. If I wasn't Welsh, Jack Morgan would be right up that list.
Oh,
right?
definitely.
And I'm excited as a Welsh fan to see Jack Morgan playing in a good international team. Because he hasn't had that opportunity.
And he deserves it.
He absolutely does. Very few players deserve it more, right?
Yeah.
Tom Curry is heroic in the Six Nations. I want to see him. Ty Byrne, one of the most exciting second rows out there possible. You've got Toji as the captain, is starting as well.
Sione Tuipulotu mentioned as well.
Sione Tuipulotu I was going to mention. Yeah, like, again, you want him to be your guy, right? Like, there's so many of those right throughout the team that I think that's a hugely exciting component. Ellis Genge, again. I keep naming the England players, but I guess there's more of them available here.
There's so many of them.
Yeah. So that's fantastic, and that's really, really exciting amongst the rest of it.
You mentioned there the back rows that are going out here. I think the battle between those is going to be so key because the Lions have gone with, you could call them triple open sides here, reasonably. That you've got Ben Earl playing at 8, which nowadays is probably his preferred position, I'd guess. Jack Morgan playing, who's quite a similar player in a way to Ben Earl in that he's a very good carrier and great over the ball. And then Tom Curry, who, as you said, was a monster in the Six Nations. That is a really difficult back row to shift. And then you look at the Argentine side of the coin, where you've got Juan Martín González, who is the most skillful of the lot. You've got Pablo Matera, who is a brute. And you've got Joaquin Oviedo, who is the all-rounder, knits everything together, makes no mistakes, and is so good on the floor.
Oviedo is one of the most underrated players in the world, right?
He is.
He is phenomenal.
Yeah. Had such a good 2024. Rugby Championship specifically.
Yeah.
Incredible
his awesome tour,
player.
he was superb. Was brilliant last time they played here in the Aviva, right?
Yeah.
Like, he was so good against Ireland, was possibly the best player on the pitch. And he is then back and has another chance to step up and make history here.
Yeah.
And it's the case for all of these. Pablo Matera is a big game player. He is someone who gets better the bigger the occasion, the bigger the pressure, right? And I think there's a chance we see him put in a worldie this weekend.
It's what Argentina are like. They shine under pressure, you know? And one more name as well I've got to mention here is Gonzalo Garcia playing 9.
Yes.
He is the best option for them at 9, and he has been for a while. And I think they've finally kind of woken up and gone, he's the best kicker in our team.
Yeah.
We can let Santi Carreras run the show with the flashy stuff. We can let Thomas Albanos run the attack. Let's let Garcia manage the game.
He has been brilliant for Zebre this season.
Yeah.
There was a little patch around the Six Nations where Zebre won back-to-back away games for the first time, I think possibly ever. If not, it was, like 10 years since they last did it. And he was player of the match in both of them. He's just been playing phenomenal rugby. And he is, by some distance, we talked about this when we did the video on kicking tactics in January. He is the only guy Argentina trusts a box kick, right? When they've got any of their other options in there, they don't rely on them. But Garcia, they're like, no, you're a brilliant box kicker. And it opens up their game a little bit because it allows the likes of Albanos to look at the attack rather than managing everything around them. It allows Carreras to be an attacking force rather than having to take on some of the game management.
100%.
So Garcia opens up their game a little bit beyond that. I'm aware we've talked very little about the tactical side, but it's very hard to say.
Yeah.
When Argentina obviously keep the ball in hand more, they like to play a high phase count than a lot of teams. It's really much the core of what they do. It was the same when Contepomi was attack coach at Leinster, and it's the same was before, even tactical trends were shifting since he's come in. So that's an exciting component here. However, the Lions, we did a video on how we think they'll play. We think it's going to be an awful lot of Ireland with little bits of England dropped in, particularly the kicking tactics. Again, you mentioned the halfbacks and the fact their kick strategy coach there is Richard Wigglesworth, right? So someone that knows those inside out as the England coach. I think it'll be really interesting to look back on and see how the Lions are playing it and what their attack looks like and how they attack particularly this Argentine defence. Contepomi said because he's got no idea who the team's going to be or how they're going to play, they are focusing solely on themselves. They've done no video analysis whatsoever. No work on the opposition. They've purely looked at themselves and how they play, and I think that's a hugely exciting component as well. Very different to when they had Michael Checker in charge. And they were doing no video analysis for a different reason.
Very fair point, very fair point. It's a weird matchup to pull up, but we mentioned Gonzalo Garcia versus Finn Smith as the two primary game managers in the team. Obviously, they've got other people around them, but if Argentina build a lead, they are going to leave on Garcia for the 80 minutes and park the bus. Whereas the Lions, it's kind of the opposite in a way. If it's a tight game, they will want to lean more into Finn Smith and get him to plug those corners as hard as possible and see if they can get anything out of it and to really squeeze Argentina and kind of play them at their own game. So it's really exciting because we don't know how the Lions are going to play this tactically.
Fascinated by the fact as well that both teams have two outside backs on the bench with their fly half cover at fullback.
Yeah.
Which I'm never a massive fan of. I like, if a flyer's going to come on and turn the game genuinely, I think they have to be coming on fresh, generally.
And needs to be watching the game beforehand before coming on.
Because otherwise you end up playing a version of the same game plan, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you want to change things genuinely, it helps to be coming off the bench. However, both of them are operating from fullback. That'll be the case with both of them. And in both cases, they've gone for very different players as that 22 and 23. You've got Maroney against Elliot Daly, very old head, very experienced, been around the block, can play a number of positions. Obviously, Daly, perhaps more so than as a long-range kicking option. But Maroney, one of the most offensively solid players out there. And then Santiago Cordero, who is one of the most exciting lightning-quick players in the world. And even though he's lost a step of pace and has spent most of the last 2 seasons injured, he is still Santiago Cordero. He's still a guy who can do things that no one else can.
He's the most agile 34-year-old in existence.
Yeah. Though Mac Hansen, opposite him, again, there was some criticism of him, surprisingly, I think, because I think he is a brilliant winger who can do things that no other player in Britain and Ireland can do.
Yeah.
And that is what's got him on the tour, is his ability to manage an attack, but also like to read the game and think about it. Like he's probably a deeper thinker about the game than any other winger out there. So 4 very different options, but they kind of create similar scenarios. Like there isn't really a counterpunch you can make to them. You're kind of delivering the same blow back to each other.
Yeah. With that all in mind, I think this is actually going to be a much tighter game than people probably realise.
Oh, I'm expecting it to be tight.
I'd imagine it will probably be less than 5 points in it. And I think I said the same thing about the Japan game last time out, and the Lions ended up running away with that. Another interesting thing is this isn't necessarily an indicator of how the test's going to go. Bear in mind the Japan game last time out, they played 1-3-2-2 and then by the test simplified it to 1-3-3-1. I think is a way of kind of like throwing the scent off for the Springboks, and that's potentially backfired on Gatland at that point.
Yeah.
But I wonder if Andy Farrell will be tempted to do the same thing here.
I don't think he will.
No.
I think instead his system is so built on time and knowing the patterns that they will be playing the same game plan in training already, and they're just trying to get better and better and better at it.
Practice makes perfect, doesn't
Exactly.
it? Get you 10,000 hours in.
Exactly. I think they're looking at these as warm-up games rather than where Gatland, it was a bit like they're an inconvenience. You know, he just wanted to be playing the tests. I think Farrell will be adding little bits in week on week on week, game on game on game, until they get to the eventual final version ahead of that first test. They've got 6 games before they play the first test. And how are they going to play them? How are they going to look forward to them? How much
First one being Argentina.
Yeah.
Coming to your backyard.
Statistically, right, the most difficult game. They're ranked above Australia in the world rankings.
Yeah. That's horrible and brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I cannot wait to see, firstly, how the Lions play, but also like a proper test match. And it's going to be
Absolutely.
proper physical.
Gut feeling, do you think Argentina can do it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Definitely can.
Here's the thing, whenever I think about the game in like an abstract way, I'm like, yeah, the Lions are winning, it'll be lovely. And then I think about the game and I think about Argentina.
You remember who they're playing against? Yeah.
And my brain goes, I think Argentina are going to win this.
Yeah.
I think just like, in terms of logic and in terms of when you apply a rugby like mindset to it, and you think about how close Argentina were to beating Ireland in Dublin, and if it's going to be the same game plan, but for players who know it less well, in the same ground, and obviously Argentina are less fresh together, they haven't been together for 7 months, but it makes sense. It makes sense for them to win it.
They know their game plan better than the Lions know theirs.
Yeah.
You know, because they've played together so much before, and it's just slotting odd people in.
Yeah.
Now that I've said Argentina could win this, do you think I'm not going to get beaten up by Julian Montoya?
I don't know. I think he's got other things on Friday.
Okay.
We are only in Dublin for about 30 hours.
Yeah.
We are flying in that morning. We are flying out the Saturday afternoon. But I'm excited.
I cannot wait. And our mum, most
Our
importantly.
mum is giddy as anything.
She's beside herself, mate.
Oh, man. Yeah. No, that's hugely exciting. And we're going to try and cover the game when we get there next week on the main channel. Then we want to do previews. We want to do like almost daily Lions stuff the moment you're back from Glastonbury.
Yes, that's the plan.
So there will be a little pause at the start of the tour.
Yeah.
And then we'll
And
pick
I'll
up
be
from
even
there.
more sunburned than I am now, hopefully.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you then for the Lions. The Lions is happening this week. Man.
Yeah, in like a couple of days.
It's so exciting.